Hey, it's the Circle of Hope Pastors again. We're in this Someone Asked series that we've been doing now for quite some time. We come up with questions, or we receive questions, or we even sometimes craft questions based on a variety of conversations. And we want to answer them because we think they're commonly wondered about. So it's an unscripted time for dialogue. Today's question is, why should I follow Jesus if everything is good in my life? Why don't you get us started, Joshua? Everything's good in your life.
Yeah, right. I the kind of I don't know if I've ever totally felt that like just everything is good in like this way that would push me towards complacency or push me towards like maybe I should just not try to grow or not mess with this because I finally have arrived. I think everything's good in one sense because I'm really grateful for what God has given me and the situations that I'm in. But if somebody is feeling that sense of like, hey, I'm so close to completeness, Jesus just kind of messes that up. I think one reason to still follow Jesus is gratitude, and another reason would be because the just because you're sort of feeling good or put together, the rest of us and the rest of creation here is having some trouble. So we need some good people to get in the mix to help with Jesus' redemption project for everybody.
So you're saying most likely everything is not good in someone's life. That's an extreme kind of thought. Even if it were, being grateful and considering other people would be reasons to follow Jesus.
Yeah, but if you thought everything was good in your life, I think that kind of attitude of gratitude or something is that's just fine too. I don't want to be too judgy about that.
How would you add, Ben?
I would say, I guess the assumption behind this question is that the only reason to follow Jesus for some people would be because he saves us from the mess of our own lives. Uh, but yeah, I know lots of people who don't follow Jesus that kind of have some things working out for them. They have ideas even about meaning that seem to work for them, and they're not in any kind of crisis at the moment, and so they think, yeah, I'm good. I don't need Jesus. And Christians are telling me I need Jesus because he's going to save me, but I don't really think I need saving. What do I need to be saved from? Look at my life; it's pretty good. And I think the best answer to that Joshua already gave is look at the world, man. We are. If you feel okay right now, um, you have not very. Oh, that's really judgy. What I was about to say, but I was going to. Where's your empathy? Like what about the rest of the world? And then also that's just for me. That's a pretty even if it's like right now I feel okay. That's a hard thing to hold on to, and life is just really hard, even just for one individual life. So I'd be I'd be worried about trying to maintain that okayness on my own, and I would not feel secure in it. Then again, I'm a Christian, so
So let me
I
throw a wrench in this for a second. That empathy, that longing to care for other people. Why should I do that? What's the point? I mean, isn't that the same kind of question? Why do I care about that, Rachel?
I think it is the path to fullness that Jesus is laying out. I'm thinking of the rich young ruler who came to Jesus with a similar question, and Jesus's response was something like, give away all your stuff and come follow me. I think what Jesus was trying to do was to get him to see beyond his own life and get into this zone of freedom from what was enslaving him, and he couldn't see it, and he walked away sad, I think the scripture says. And so I think this life that Jesus is calling into us into is a way to find ourselves by being free of slavery to self. So it's really kind of mysterious and certainly countercultural in our individualistic society, but it gets us into this fullness of life zone that just living for ourselves doesn't.
I'm glad we're unpacking this because so many of these assumptions are just that. We assume people kind of have the same ideas as us. So even the concept, what does it mean that everything is good in your life? Who's defining that? Where are you getting the definition from? On one hand, from the United States, from the government, from a commercial, from your TV show. But on the other, if everything is indeed good, a good question to ask yourself is, why is it good? And who made it that way? Don't you think that God's love and Jesus' grace extends that far that your life can be good even if you're not acknowledging him or relating to him? That his grace is that magnificent. That the reason we wake up every morning and get to breathe new air and see a new sunrise is because Jesus is risen.
Yeah. James says that every good and perfect gift comes from God. So yes, the good that others receive, even though they're not acknowledging the giver, are receiving from God. I'll thank God for what they're getting. I'm glad that they have goodness.
I think this is all good. When Rachel was bringing up the rich young ruler, couldn't help to even think that of this two-part kind of thing. The one hand, if a person is like rich and a ruler, their wealth comes at the expense of others. So like it might be really good for that person who sucked up all the wealth from everybody else. But is that really like, I mean, and he was keeping the laws and all this stuff, but part of that freedom is also like allowing other people to experience freedom, and by not withholding or not hoarding. And the other thing for us, it should be super easy to follow Jesus in the United States because historically there's been this connection between Christendom and the state where, there's privilege that comes along with it. And I think as we're shifting here, and we're no longer talking about how to just be a Christian in terms of your, how you fill out an application or what kind of social norms you have or how just your basic kind of morality flows. I mean, we're talking about following Jesus in a way that actually causes problems, I think. And I just wanted to highlight that because I know all of you, following Jesus sort of would disrupted or will disrupt or is disrupting sort of those other societal myths and lies that kind of push you towards like, hey, you should be, self-sufficient. You should be able to provide wealth for your children and grandchildren. You need to like be as comfortable as you possibly can. And Jesus constantly helps us to get out of that flow and into this redemptive flow with him.
Yeah, I mean, there are nations and cities where, I mean, the United States is such a flagrant example of self-service and slavery to capitalism. But there are other places that are quite livable, where income distribution's better, healthcare is better, education's better, there is a sense of cooperation. They're largely kind of atheistic towns, but people live there, and they live well. They're happy. I just read a list of the most livable places, and they're in Canada and Australia. And so I think another aspect to it, even if your life is good and your government's fairly just, at least in your definition, this thing that Rachel was even talking about of meaning. Following Jesus helps you to relate to the author of meaning, the person that gives your life and your even your success, even your joy, meaning and purpose beyond just that, beyond the boundaries
Material.
of a finite world.
The contemplatives called Jesus the ground of our being, and I like that connection to the Spirit of God that is alive and connects us to the source of our life and to the earth, to each other. It's kind of impossible to escape in some ways.
I think it's a good place to wrap up. Thanks for having this dialogue, pastors, and thanks for listening, guys. Right down here, you can like it, you can share it if you want to. Comment if you like. If you have more questions, that you want us to answer, just jot us a note. Get a hold of us in some way. We'll see you next time.